Hey everyone, and welcome back to the live stream. I am so excited to be with you guys here today. We're talking about part four of the five-part career workshop that I am doing. Today, we're going to be talking about resumes and job search strategy. So, this is our career development workshop. Today's topic is one of the ones that's really important: how to build the job ready resume and your strategy. Because we need to talk a lot about do's and don'ts of resumes. Do you need to make a custom resume for every single job that you are applying for? Some things to look out for when you are applying for jobs as well. We'll talk about that as well. And if you have questions about resumes, if you have questions about job search and tactics, all the crazy things that are going on with are people still um are people still are people still hold on one second, I'm getting an alert. There we go. Um, are people still actually looking at your resume? Are they all being reviewed by bots? So let me know where you're tuning in from today and what's going on in your neck of the woods. I am enjoying some cooler weather finally here in Pennsylvania. But heading out to Orlando in a couple of days to go to Universal, so it's going to be a different temperature while I'm down there, but still very excited. Today's live stream is brought to you by Preppy. If you are interested in finding out about a career in medical billing and coding, if you haven't started your journey yet and you're like, Victoria, well, like, where do I go? Like, what do I do? Where do I get training? What certifications do I need? I cover that all in my medical coding masterclass. This is a free career masterclass that you can attend to find information about what certifications you need, what a medical coder does, what is the salary of medical coders. And it is brought to you by our sponsor today, Preppy, and you can find out more at medicalcodingmasterclass.com. But without further ado, let's get into today's live stream. So we are coming in live today from YouTube, from Instagram, and LinkedIn. Facebook, for some reason, decided that the stream got deleted. I don't know what the heck happened there. But I'm also coming in on TikTok. TikTok, we have to have coming in through a little separate microphone over and yonder, and with a separate app because it doesn't want to play nice with all the other stuff that's going on here. Move this down. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. We are indeed live, Rima. Thank you for coming in. We have this live. We will also have the recordings available. I think they're available actually on YouTube immediately after the stream ends. Um, so yeah, everything will be available there. And let's start getting in and talking to y'all about resumes. So let's go over here. I'm going to share some slides and we're going to go through some tools as well. I like having visuals. So your resume is not just a piece of paper. It is that first impression. So employers, when they're looking at who to hire, that's your entry point in because right away they're not going to see that work ethic or that personality or your drive. That's when you get into the interview process that you get to demonstrate that. So what they're going to see on your resume is more so how well you have packaged all of your experience and all of your potential into this one, possibly two-page document. So our goal today is to make sure that that page, that paper, which I don't know that a lot of them are really looking at the paper unless they're printing it out. These days they're looking at the Word document or the PDF or whatever they are getting to you, um, unless they print it out for the in-person interview and set it on their desk. But a lot of it is very digital these days. So let's get into the resumes. So we talked about the importance of building the ready resume, but let's break down why your resume really matters in your job search. So the first point is it is your first impression with an employer. Your resume, they're going to get that before a phone call, a handshake, anything like that. So it really needs to be very polished, very professional, and very clear. Messy resumes, generic resumes can close doors before you even get that chance to prove yourself and go, hey, maybe I don't have 3 years of experience, but I have customer service skills and I'm good with working with all kinds of different federal regulations. And I did really well in coding school and I have these recommendations and I did this apprenticeship. So, those are some of the things that will help polish um, your potential and showcase yourself to these potential employers. It also showcases your certifications and your skills. In medical coding, credentials really matter. So, your credentials, your certifications, like the CPC or the CRC or your CCA or CCS, those should be very, very easy to spot. I have looked at some resumes recently where I've had coders that applied for a position and I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, I can see that they had medical coding training. I can kind of tell that they're a member of the APC, but I don't know if they haven't sat for their CPC yet, if they're in the process of doing that, if they've passed it, like where in the process are you? When you're crafting your resume, I always recommend, and most people do, that at the very top where you have your name, your credentials should be right after that. So I wouldn't put at the top of my resume just Victoria Vo. I would put Victoria Vo, CPC, COC, CRC, the whole alphabet of credentials that I have right now. Because if they're only looking at your resume for that split second, they're only looking at it for a few seconds. If you see all of these articles that they say, oh, your resume, all of these people, they're only looking at it, these recruiters, these employers, they're only looking at it for a few seconds. Well, a lot of times now, it's not even that. So many places are getting screened by algorithms, by AI. They're looking for certain keywords. And in the case where something is either being screened or only being looked at for a few seconds, they're not going to waste that time going, okay, let me scroll through and double check and her credential number and put that into the AAPC website and see if it comes up that they have the CPC. They want to see that bold and right at the top, especially in some of these scenarios. Um, Oftentimes with large organizations, the recruiters aren't just hiring medical coders. They might be hiring medical coders and medical assistants and transcriptionists and lab people, and they don't know all the different credentials and what they're for and what associations, but they might just have a list that says, okay, do not hire CPCAs or only hire someone that has a CPC. And they want to be able to find that on your resume really, really quick. So if they don't see it or they see a different credential, it's gonna be more likely to be screened out of there. Um, so that one, you need to have your credentials big and bold and right there in your face. And then pair that up with your skills. So do you know ICD-10 CM? Do you know CPT? Do you know HCPCS? Do you know ICD-10 PCS? A lot of coding positions, there's different types of medical coding. We have facility inpatient coders where you need to know about PCS and DRGs. But if you're a CPC and you just did CPC training, you likely did not get training on PCS and DRGs and facility inpatient coding. So they need to know which of these code sets are you familiar with? Which are you have you worked with? Which do you know? Which have you had training on? Also, any software tools. Have you worked in Epic? Have you worked in Cerner? Have you worked with 3M Encoder? Have you worked with Codify? Have you worked with IntelliCode? What software and tools are you familiar with? Have you um, worked with even ebooks? A lot more employers these days don't wanna have to ship out code books. They're huge, they're heavy, the shipping costs are astronomical. And if they're a large billing company that employs 50, 60, 70, 120 coders, they're not going to want to ship out 120 sets of code books. They're just going to go, hey, here's your login information to access this search tool or ebooks or what have you. Um, so a lot more employers want to know, do you know how to use some of those software tools? If we give you access to Codify or Select Coder or iCoder or any of these other coding search mechanisms, do you know what to do with that? Excuse me one second. I'm just gonna quick blow my nose because I'm still a little bit getting over COVID. Uh, thankfully getting, I didn't even realize, I don't know if you guys know this, I'm just on to sidetrack. But, with back to school, like, all the bugs and germs are circulating again, and I thought for sure I just had a head cold until I coated myself in Vicks Vapor Rub and went to go take a hot steam shower, and I'm like, "I do not smell Vapor Rub, I smell absolutely nothing." So, thankfully, I'm feeling better now, but yeah, that was, you know, I was not happy about not being able to smell and taste for a couple of days. Today I'm drinking iced coffee. I'd like to know what you guys are drinking and what is your drink du jour? Are you a straight water person? I like flavored water. I like coffee. It's still, I wouldn't don't want to say too early. Um, but it's still early enough to be drinking iced coffee. I mixed my iced coffee today with pistachio coffee flavoring and a chocolate protein shake. So I really wanted to be like, I'm drinking the viral Dubai iced coffee, but it's not that kind of channel. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. So yeah, so even if you maybe don't have experience in medical coding, you haven't done a job or an internship, you really want to focus in on all of those skills, even those things like Codify. A lot of packages through the AAPC now where you get training will include Codify. I would put that on your resume, especially if you've done some kind of training, like you even went through their training videos that they have, that you're say that you're skilled in using Codify. The more tools that you have there, the more keywords, the better. What's happening a lot of right now is these recruiters have large databases of resumes and you want to have a resume that they can search. And if they're looking for someone who's trained in Cerner or they're looking for someone who's trained in Select Coder or 3M Encoder or whatever, they're just going to type those words into a database and you want to have your resume come up with those search terms. Medical coding job market is competitive, especially at entry level. Once you have a couple of years of experience, it's a little more smooth sailing. Or if you're very specialty trained, like if you know cardiovascular or you know auditing, you're less likely to be having time searching in between jobs, which does happen with other industries. We see that a lot in the tech industry. I can't tell you how many times I've seen articles and videos of people who work in IT and they're like, "Hey, I lost my IT job at Google and I've been searching for, a year now and I still haven't found another tech job." So this isn't like a medical coding exclusive thing that you're like, "Oh, well, you get into this secret career, you're never going to have to worry about ever having to look for a job again or worrying, it follows a lot of similar patterns to other industries. Um, but having that very competitive resume can help your resume rise above in that sea of other candidates. So maybe everyone else has the credential, but you've got these additional strengths, you've got these additional skills that can make all of the difference. Now, as far as tailoring your resume, I don't think you necessarily need to make 50 different versions of your resume, but sometimes when you submit your resume online, it'll ask you maybe for a little introduction or paragraph. I would say maybe try to tailor those a little bit more. Maybe something more of why does it keep popping up on TikTok saying join my fan club? I don't even know what I really need to learn more about some of these TikTok features. Um, I would worry more about tailoring that intro paragraph. I want to work for this company because I see that you da 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 da. Da. I've seen a lot of people that they just use ChatGPT for this. Is it effective? Is it not? I guess it kind of depends on the job you're applying for. When I was hiring for an intern, I didn't really want someone who was just gonna regurgitate ChatGPT stuff to me. So I did look for something that was a little bit more tailored. So I wouldn't say necessarily you have to make a custom cover letter or a custom resume for every single job unless it's a different type of position. Like if you're applying for coding positions and billing positions and you're like, "Ooh, I think if I said this and this and this in a billing position, it might catch more." That's the only time I would say maybe make multiple versions of a resume if there's different types of positions that you're applying for. Yeti says that they used Project Resume and they got a temp job as a health information specialist. So, yes, there are companies out there that can customize resumes specifically for medical coders. There's two primary ones in this industry. One of the one is the one that Yeti just said, which is projectresume.net, which I can show those of you that are on um, YouTube and LinkedIn and Instagram. So projectresume.net. They actually just switched ownership. It was run by na- names escaping me right now. I'm Annie. And I believe now Jacob and some of his crew are running Project Resume, and Jacob, he's lovely. Jacob is lovely. So I have full faith that he's gonna do amazing with this, but I do have, um, an affiliation with Project Resume. So if you do decide to go to Project Resume, which is projectresume.net, they, I believe, still have a drop down that you can say that Victoria recommended you for services, and they do give me, I think, a small commission for doing that. The other one I would recommend is Sarah Reagan. Did I share that? Yeah, so here's projectresume.net. The other one I would recommend is Sarah Reagan, and I always wanna make sure I get this right because I could sequence the words right. Caffeinated Coder Creations. It's caffeinated career I always say when I say caffeinated coder, caffeinatedcareercreations.com. Now, I do not have an affiliate relationship with Sarah because she doesn't need an affiliate for me. She is booked out. But the difference between Project Resume and what Sarah does is Project Resume, if you're just like, hey, I just want to send them all of my information and please fix up my resume and make it look awesome, you can get that for a more affordable price at Project Resume. Sarah is more of a artisan sort of resume service. What Sarah does is she schedules a virtual meeting with you to go over all of the experience you have, all of the different work that you have, and she meets with you to make sure that she captures all of that and gets that in your resume and like it's an art more of an artisan crafting of the resume, right? It's a more top tier experience, but she is very booked out. So if you're like, "Hey, I don't have time to sit here for" Cheryl Ann is saying she's booked out for 4 months. Um, so if you're like, "I don't have time for that," or "I don't wanna have to sit down and have a meeting, like, I just want someone to do my resume," projectresume.net is the good alternative to that. So those are the 2 big heavy hitters in this industry for if you want someone else to do your resume. The other thing I will suggest, though, is you can do your own resume. So let's say you're like, "Hey, Victoria, I don't know. I've never made a resume before, or I haven't made a resume in 10 years. Like, what do I do?" You can easily start with for free with just Google Docs. Google Docs has templates that you can very plug and play these with. And it doesn't matter if a whole bunch of people have the same template because they're not going to have the same keywords. They're not going to have the same information. But some things I do want to draw out, like if we look at the resumes that they have the templates for on Google, one thing I would suggest is like right here where it has your name. That's where you want to have your name and your credentials. It wants to you want to have that CPC, CPCA, COC, CIC, CCS, whatever, right there after your name, big and bold. If it doesn't fit there because the text is too small, change the text a little bit smaller. When you look here at these resumes, which are the more professionally crafted kind of templates, you see some of the common things they do is they give like the company name, the location, what your job title was, and then a small snippet of what the description was. Even when we look at some of the other templates that we have, not that one, this one that says coral, I want to go back to. When we look at some of these other samples of resumes, they're not doing a huge text narrative of, "I worked here and I did this and this and this and this and this." There's 3 bullets, 2 bullets, and that's what I recommend. If you're posting about your prior positions or your prior experience, we don't need to see a huge paragraph. We don't need to see 5, 6 bullet points. Keep it to 2 or 3 bullet points that really hone in, especially on some of the accomplishments you did. Because they're going to assume that if you worked as a medical coder, you did medical coding, but like what specialty did you work for? What was your accuracy rate? What was your productivity rate? Did you do any auditing? What are the things that they would maybe not expect above and beyond just doing medical coding? If you're like, "Victoria, I don't know, like, what the heck to say about my prior job," here's what I would say. If you're like, "Hey, I don't know what to say here. I wanna use the plug and play," you can take your old job description, find it online, Google it. I save mine. I save all my job descriptions as PDFs, have them emailed to myself. You can plug that into ChatGPT or Google Gemini and go, "Hey, out of this, like, can you give me 2 or 3 bullets that highlight what it was that I did in this job or give a description of what I did in this job." In fact, one of the ways if you really wanna, like, cheat your way through, I don't wanna say cheat your way through this, but, expedite it and you're like, "Hey, can I just give me something, like, I gotta apply for a job and I gotta do it quick and I just need a resume put together." You can go into a Google Gemini or a ChatGPT and plug in all of your prior, um job descriptions, plug in what certifications you have, give it as much information as you can. Like, even if you want to voice type it, because you can do that, you can say, go into Google Gemini, go into ChatGPT, say, "Hey, I'm building my medical coding resume. I have my CPCA. I've worked here and I've done this, and I've worked here and I've done this. And I'm familiar with these systems. And here's, this and this and this." Give it, feed it as much information as you can and then say, "Hey, can you develop a Word document for a resume for me?" And it'll spit something out, and you can retool it from there. If you don't like the way it's formatted or you want to put in different information, you can change it up. It's nice to have some different you know things that you can look at as far as your resume. And then, don't be afraid to take that to your local chapter and go, "Hey, fellow coders, can anyone take a look at this for me and tell me, am I missing something? Like, does anyone work in management that could take a look at this for me and tell me, like, does this look okay?" I think if you take it with you, that's or ask people in a virtual meeting, like, "Hey, can someone take a look at my resume just real quick and give me, 2 minutes of feedback?" I think more people are more willing to do that. Because I've had people that have even approached me at conferences and they're like, "Hey, do you do resume review?" And I'm like, "Not really." And they're like, "Well, I have it here." And I'm like, "Well, okay, well, if you want me to just look at it for like 2 minutes, like I can definitely like screen through it and give you some feedback." So if people know ahead of time that you're not looking for a whole workshop from them, that you're just looking for a couple of minutes of feedback, they're more apt to kind of look for that. Um, so those are some of the options as far as creating resumes. Now, why you want to have a good resume? Let's get into that. Oop, oop, there we go. So we want to start with your name. You want to have your credentials onto it. Any credentials that you have, even if you have one that's maybe not as preferable, you still want to have it on there. Employers want to see your qualifications right up front. Contact information, uh, phone number, or city and state. I've had some people that say, they don't want to tell the area that they live in is a small town, so they don't want people maybe to have that because resumes wind up getting public all over the place. They maybe don't want that information um, all over the place of like their exact house number and street address or even their small city. So they do like an adjacent city. I'll sometimes say that I live in the metropolitan Philadelphia area. I'm not anywhere near Philadelphia. I'm about an hour, depending on traffic, anywhere from 1 to 2 hours from Philadelphia. But sometimes I'll tell people, "Yeah, I'm from the metropolitan Philadelphia area," so they kind of know the general area that I'm in. Most employers really wanna just kind of know where you are more so for tax purposes when they're kind of starting up in that way. Um So, city and state are fine enough. I would also say one of the things I recently learned is it's preferable to have a PDF versus a Word document, and here's why. If I open up a Word document and I'm opening it up on my phone or I'm opening it up on Google Docs instead of Word or an older version of Word or some alternative to Word because maybe I think there's other cheaper alternatives. Was it Open Office? I think it used to be called. Um, Depending on the version that I'm opening it at, your resume may look very different from the way you think you formatted it. But if you save it as a PDF, no matter what I open it with, it's going to look formatted exactly the same. So craft your resume in Word so that you can still edit it if you don't have an editor in Adobe, which most people don't. Craft it in Word, save it as a PDF, and send it out as a PDF. And then if you need to make changes, change it on the Word document, resave the PDF. That's PDF is what you want to have it sent out as, just so that you don't run into any kind of issues with any kind of formatting. And it needs to be one of the searchable PDFs. I had a coworker at one point that did not understand how to save Word documents or how to save websites as PDFs where you kind of do the print to PDF so it can still be searchable, you can still copy and paste it and all that stuff. Um, so you don't want to take your paper resume. So we don't want to take our paper resume and then like run it through a photocopier that copies it as a PDF because that's a PDF image. It's not searchable. We want to make sure that it is a searchable text PDF. Um, I also I also once had someone send me their resume, that they had the paper and took their phone and took a photograph of it with their phone and sent it to me. I would also not recommend doing that because again, these resumes are going into databases and they need to be searched for keywords and key terms. And if they can't search the text in it because it's an image file, it's not gonna be useful, and it just also looks very unprofessional and looks very, very sloppy. Um, so yeah, your email address also should be work appropriate. I know that's tough because sometimes when we get our first email address, we might be like 10, 11, 12, 13 years old. And we might have something that's fun. It might be like, Super Mario 1237, or it might be something that's a little bit more inappropriate. So make sure that your email address is professional for use. I've seen some people that they set up a medical coding specific Gmail account to use for that kind of professional purposes. So it might be Mary Kay the Coder at gmail.com. Save the fun ones for your personal use if you want, but the professional ones should be used for when you're applying for jobs. Uh, if you have a summary statement, that's kind of like your elevator pitch, 2 or 3 sentences highlighting your strengths, your career focuses, maybe a little bit of your personality, but it's kind of that hook that keeps them wanting to read more. I would I would focus on not just using buzzwords, not just using, I'm here because I'm, a team player working in a fast-paced environment with good symbiosis or whatever the corporate buzzword of the day is right now. Um, that keep that out, keep more of a, I have high accuracy. I, am very focused on doing right. If you can incorporate anything from that companies or a lot of companies mission statements in there, like if they have certain things that they like seeing or looking for, try to incorporate that in. Education and certifications. So definitely have your section for that you went through medical coding training, that you have a CPC or CCS. Be very careful because I've seen some people format their LinkedIn profiles and sometimes their resumes in a way that makes it look like they are employed by the AAPC when they in fact were not. They were trained by the AAPC. So if you have a heading, for example, in LinkedIn that says CPC with AAPC, it kind of makes it look then that you're employed with the AAPC, which some people are. But if you're not, if your paycheck doesn't say AAPC on it, then you want to be really careful to make that clarification that you are trained with the AAPC, that you are credentialed by the AAPC, but not an employee necessarily of the CPC. As far as credentials, employers are really looking for medical coding, CPC, CRC, CCS, COC, CIC. The CBCS, people ask me a lot of questions about that. There are only small pockets of areas where I have seen that they will accept that for coding positions. If you're just getting into a billing position or somewhere else in the revenue cycle that's not necessarily a coding position, they might be fine with a CBCS. Um, but really coding positions, they wanna have a CPCA or CPCS. I'm sorry, CPCS. Oh my god, CCS. I have a question here coming in from TikTok from Jen. Is the AAPC course to become a CPCA hard? If you do self-paced, how long would it take? It really depends. Some people take 3 months, some people take a whole year, and the is it hard is very variable depending on the person and their background. If you go on YouTube, I have a video that I've called, "Is Medical Coding Hard?" And I would recommend kinda checking that out. So also on our resume, we wanna include any skills relevant to medical coding. So, again, we talked about the code systems, ICD-10 CM, ICD-10 PCS, CPT, HCPCS. Do you know, CDT, which is our dental coding? Do you know the DSM-5? Those aren't typically taught in coding training programs, although I have seen a few out there that do. What electronic medical records are you familiar with? Um, I don't think you necessarily need to include that like, the general office skills, like, I wouldn't include that you know how to use a keyboard or how fast you type. Medical coding is not a position in which being able to type an extraordinary amount of words in a short period of time is going to be something that people are really looking at. Like, you're not gonna be typing codes so fast, that your ability to type fast is gonna come into play. Um, I would keep it more so to the code systems, EMRs, medical terminology, anatomy, compliance knowledge, not necessarily just a laundry list of medical office skills. In most business positions or professional positions now, they're kind of anticipating that you have general office skills, that you know how to save a PDF, that you know how to send an email. So I wouldn't really list anything more than maybe Microsoft Office skills. I wouldn't say, "Oh yeah, I know how to use Windows," That's kind of a given these days. If you're trying to work a computer-oriented job in an office, they expect you to have those foundational office skills. And when they're recruiting you for a medical coding position, they're going to be searching more for terms like Epic or CPT or cardiology, not necessarily Microsoft Word or email or something like that. Also include if you have Also include if you have any kind of experience, even if it's volunteer work or externships or internships. So even if you don't have a paid coding experience yet, you still have things that you could list. So volunteer work, transferable skills from another role. So do you have other positions where maybe you worked with accuracy, even cashiering, that you were able to give correct change? That's accuracy. Did you do data entry and it was very, you were able to get things done very complete and very accurately? Did you work a little bit with federal regulations or company regulations that you had to have very tight and very accurate? Because that's kind of a compliance-ish role. Well, I have a question coming in from TikTok. I'm not a certified coder yet, but I did attend Coders Boot Camp. Should I put that on my resume along with the certificate I received for the 80 contact hours? Yeah. So I would put that on your resume under training experience. I think it's important to have the baseline training. I think some people lately have been going a little bit overboard with their education experience and they want to list like every webinar they've ever attended that pertains to medical coding. I don't think that's necessary. But if you did like a specialty training that maybe gave you a certificate at the end, maybe you did one on like mental health or something, those I would be more apt to listing under your training versus like, hey, I did a 1 hour chapter uh, meeting and it was on vascular coding. Um, you want to highlight everything, but you don't want to have a laundry list of every single webinar you've attended. Altogether Beauty says, I have to get 72 CEUs by November 25th. Do you have any tips, please? Go to the YouTube channel and search for the CEU video. There's a little magnifying glass. You can search CEUs. But if you're an AAPC member, you get AAPC, the magazine, included in your membership. You can find that in your AAPC account, the digital version. Every quiz that you complete based off of the information on Healthcare Business Monthly, you earn one CEU. There are also local chapter meetings you can attend. You can get CEUs from some of the Medicare contractors. Big ones are Novitas and Noridian. They have whole education schedules. There are free CEUs that you get as an AAPC member. Just Google AAPC member for free CEUs because they give you those as a member. I'm not sure if they still give CEUs right now for the AI and medical coding training. I'm not sure if they're still enrolling that for free anymore. But yeah, those are the ones that I personally would suggest. Um, I would also recommend if it comes down to I either need to pay for renewal or pay for some CEUs, I would just get the AAPC webinar subscription and just start banging those out because I think you get 2 per webinar, one for listening to the webinar and then one for answering the quiz. So really your resume should tell a clear story, who you are, what you're bringing to the table, and why you are job ready. So once you kind of have all of those pieces in place, you have that perfectly crafted resume that is professional as well as persuasive. So we wanna have in there our levels of proficiency in ICD-10-CM, CPT, HCPCS, PCS, those are like your bread and butter. That makes it very crystal clear, like, these are the code systems that I'm trained in. Because obviously, depending on the type of coding that you're doing, you might be required to do different types of coding. If you're working in risk adjustment, they wanna know that you know ICD-10-CM like the back of your hand. They're not gonna be as concerned if you know PCS coding because risk adjustment doesn't involve PCS coding. They wanna know that you know CM. They wanna know that you know some med term, that you know some anatomy. If you don't have to list, I think, individual classes. If you did general medical coding training, they're gonna assume that you at least learned some med term and some anatomy. Um Something that I would say is maybe do list. I have some attention to detail and accuracy. I think it's kind of assumed, but if you have room to include it, it's not gonna hurt anything. It could only make things maybe a little bit better. Because this is a profession where one single digit can mean a difference between correct payment and a completely denied claim, and then timely filing might come into play and all kinds of stuff. So, highlighting accuracy as a skill, especially if you can demonstrate it in a prior position, if you can say like, "Hey, I had really high accuracy in this job I had working over at Old Navy or working over in the Amazon factory or something, like, I was able to pick orders and all of my orders were accurate. That can demonstrate your accuracy better than just saying, "Well, I have really good accuracy. I'm really detail oriented." So demonstrating that skills by saying, "I did this in this position." And again, your familiarity with all of the different systems, billing software, and even things like HIPAA compliance, this is a very it's an interesting position because we're dealing with a lot of different records as medical coders. And in my career, I've definitely handled records of names that were familiar to me. Either they were someone I knew from the community, or they were someone maybe even of notoriety, or that were in my sphere somehow, job, school, whatever. So we have to protect that patient privacy. I'm very good at compartmentalizing. I can look at a record that was from a neighbor and never think of it again or remember what was on it after I'm done coding it. Some people aren't. I, as a supervisor, had coders come to me and go, I just got this record. I'm supposed to code it. It's from my neighbor. And I'm like, okay, so code it. And they're like, no, 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 because it's going to make it awkward then when I have to look at them in the face. And I'm like, I get it. Okay, okay. I understand where you're coming from. It's not how I can personally handle things, but I can understand that maybe you're not able to compartmentalize those things the way I can. So hand it over to me. I'll code it, and then you don't have to worry about any kind of awkward interactions with your neighbor. So yeah, it's very important to be able to protect patient integrity. I've had some interactions with fellow coders that have not been as savory. I had someone come up to me once early in my career and they're like tiptoed over and they're like, Victoria, guess who's pregnant? And I'm like, don't tell me. Don't. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Do not get away from my desk. Don't involve me with this because I'm not looking at their record and it's none of my business. So please go. Yeah, it's protecting patients' privacy is very important to me and should be for all medical coders. Um, so keep your skill section focused, relevant, and keeping it tailored to kind of what those coding employers are actually caring about, what they're really looking for, not just a big ol' uh, pile of big ol' pile of keywords. So now we've got our resume polished, our skills are all highlighted. We've got the resume. We're like, woohoo, here we go. What are we doing with it, right? What are we doing with it? We've got it saved. I would also recommend saving it as a smart file name. So when I save my resume, I save it as victoriavoresume.pdf. So that way, if a recruiter has 50 different file names in a folder that they're looking at, mine, and they're looking for them, they'll go, "Oh, there's Victoria's resume because she called it victoriavoresume.pdf." Whereas, the other 49 in that folder might be resume.pdf, resume1.pdf, resume2.pdf, right? So it's good to have it as your name. So it makes it easier to search when they are looking specifically for your resume. I'm getting roses on TikTok, which this is the funniest thing. Okay, I'm going to sidetrack for a second. I only really kind of recently came into knowing what the roses and the donuts and the galaxies and things are. They're like these little gifts, and I think they cost like fractions of cents or something on TikTok. And the reason I learned more about these is because I was scrolling my feed and started getting these feeds where there's people and they have I don't know if the rest of you on TikTok are getting these, but it's like it'll be like someone has a huge plastic bag, like an oblong shaped bag, and it'll be filled with fish food. And then there's fish at the bottom of it, and it's just this hanging bag and the fish at the bottom, and they have it programmed so that there's, like, a rose that you can donate and, like, a finger thing and, like, a donut and a galaxy, and depending on who donates what, it presses these little stabby things into the bag. So as people are continually donating money, it stabs all of these holes in these bags, and the hope is that everyone's gonna sit and watch long enough and donate so much that the bag will eventually rip open and spill all the fish food, and then it'll feed the fish. And then I've seen some where it's just, like, beads filled in a bag, and then they'll be hanging on by, like, the tiniest thread, and I just look at it sometime, and it'll be holding on there for, like, minutes and minutes, and I'm, like, watching, like, waiting for it to fall, and it's not, and I'm like, this is, like that bag is I wish my mental health was that strong because it is hanging on by the tiniest little thread with this huge thing of fish food on there just spinning around, and it's just not dropping for So that's the only reason I know now more about the gifts and things is because of these fish food things. So anyway, back to the job searching. Excuse me. Um, so LinkedIn is a good place. You can search for jobs there. You can get connected with recruiters. I have seen tons of recruiters lately that are posting on Facebook, especially when they need a bunch of medical coders. I just saw one yesterday that someone was like, "We need 100 coders in risk adjustment that have 3 years of risk adjustment experience." And I think it was in a specific Facebook group for risk adjustment coders. I saw one not too long ago where they're like, "Hey, we need CPCAs for, this project, and we need a whole bunch of them." So, honestly, get into some of those Facebook groups, but be very cautious if they're like, "Immediately donate, give us your, Social Security number," and stuff like er, if they want you to give them money because 'cause they're like, "Hey, you need equipment for this specific job, so you gotta field us $300." So be a little cautious of that. AAPC job board is actually getting a lot better because it's very specific to our field, and I would make that the first point of contact as well as LinkedIn, as well as Google Jobs, as well as ZipRecruiter. You can filter some of them for entry level positions. However, that filter is only as good as what people input into it. So if they didn't, while they were uploading that job, say, hey, this is an entry level job, then it's not going to come in on the filter. I also suggest searching for terms instead of just searching for titles. So if I search for medical coder or medical coding, I will get a good amount of responses. But if I search for something like ICD-10 CM or ICD-10, just I guess ICD-10, because it will come up with PCS and CM. So if you just search like ICD-10, it'll bring up all of the positions where they're looking for someone with that skill set, which might not all be medical coding positions, but they might be like an entry level, like coding adjacent position, something where you're pulling medical records or working with billing or working on denials so that maybe you can get into that job or get into that healthcare organization and then transfer, which I have done before. I've worked at some healthcare organizations that let you transfer in as little as 3 months. So I went in and got a job working accounts receivable, and 4 months later, I was in the coding department, which they were not happy about, but also I think the coding department originally wanted to hire me, and then just billing just got me faster, so that is a way that you can get in there. So, LinkedIn, Google Jobs, um, Breland's asking, "Is it hard to find a job with a CCS?" I have actually found a lot more positions that are looking for inpatient facility, versus professional fee. In fact, there's a code on demand company called Code Health. They tend to only take more experienced coders, but it's contract work. I actually have a position that I'm going to be starting with them for a little bit. Um, I think it's like $2 and change for E&M charts, but I haven't done E&M in a while. So I'm like, I just really want to code some E&M charts, but only for like a day or two a week. Um, but a lot of the positions that Code Health has are inpatient facility. So inpatient facility coding is in huge demand right now. So it's less likely that I find these on-demand jobs just in profi coding. But yeah, get involved, get not only searching the jobs, but I would say get involved in networking too, your local chapters. I've talked to some managers that they're like, I prefer candidates that are more involved with their local chapters because that shows that they have a more dedication to the industry. So I think that's a great opportunity if you can get involved with your local chapter or say, I go to my local chapter meetings. Volunteer as a chapter officer. Chapter officer elections are coming up next month. Not to stop and plug, but yeah, I'm going to stop and plug. Chapter officer elections are next month. I am not telling you that you should become a chapter officer because it will help you get a job, because that is not the purpose of becoming a chapter officer. But if you're someone who wants to volunteer and show your skills and learn and be like, I want to get a little flavor of leadership, I want to volunteer, I want to help out, I want to see what goes on, maybe a little bit behind the scenes in the industry. I want to connect. I want to show that I can strut my stuff. I can show my skills. I can help run a Zoom meeting. I can help maybe find a couple of people to speak or think of some fun chapter meeting ideas. Like, get connected with your local chapters. They can help you out, and you can volunteer. You don't even need to be certified for some of the positions. There's some positions that it's almost like the welcome committee that you can help out at, even if you're not certified yet. As long as you're an AAPC member in good standing, you can go. If you want to know more about your local chapter and how to get involved in your local chapter, what you want to do is you want to go to aapc.com. You wanna make sure that you are logged in to your account, and oop, I'm not logged in, hold on one second. Sign in. Some people will say that your member ID is like your Social Security number, and you shouldn't share that, but, I think there's been snippets of my member number I haven't memorized. My member number have shown up online, and to date, like, no one's stolen my coding identity over it. Um, but what you wanna do is if you go to, and actually it's kinda good that I'm blocking it right now. If you go to your AEPC website, top right-hand corner, and then you scroll down under your name, and then go to local chapter, it will show you all of your chapter information, events, resources, training and news directory. You can also find your chapter um, under your My Account. You can find a whole directory of all the chapters in there. But if we go to the one where it just says the local chapter and then you go to view events, it will show you what events are coming up in your area. If you click on the directory, it'll give you the name and contact information of the chapter officers currently in your area. But I think getting involved in your local chapter is good. My chapter right now is Reading, Pennsylvania, and they're having an upcoming meeting in October for oral surgery. My chapter is great. They have, like, such a good variety. I don't know how they get such great speakers all the time. I think they really just tap into the fellow coders, and they're like, "Hey, you code orthopedics. Get us one of your ortho guys to come speak at our chapter." I think they're just very good at doing. Um, so back to the slides. Um, yeah, so I would really recommend, following up, reading those instructions carefully, because sometimes they'll say that they need something specific or they want you to fax them something or scan something specific or include something. So really read through what it is that they're looking for you to submit. If they want references up front, which isn't usually they don't, but if they ask for references, make sure that you're including, your references. It's kind of this first test of your attention to detail, right? Is like, can you follow the instructions to apply for this job? Speaking of which, I will also tell you, um, I've had instances where I was working as an auditor, and it's a very small department, and probably still is. And we needed to hire another auditor. And since it was a small, intimate department, we're like, we all as a team kind of want to screen these people and make sure that we're going to work out okay with them. And someone had submitted their resume, and they were very skilled, but there was a couple of spelling errors on their resume. And I was like, they have such good skills. I think maybe I can forgive the spelling errors, because we need some people. But one of my coworkers is like, absolutely not. And she made the point, if this person made a spelling error on their resume, and this is a document that's so important and so vital, what mistakes are they gonna possibly make when they're sending out audit summaries to providers? Are they gonna not spell the provider's name wrong? Right? Are they going to put spelling errors or incorrect information on an audit? Are they gonna be sloppy on the audit that they're not gonna put things incorrectly? Like, I think if they can't proofread their resume, they might not proofread these audit results that they're sending out to providers, and I don't think that's something we wanna hire. So I have genuinely seen people who are very skilled lose out on jobs because of having spelling errors on their resumes and having mistakes on their resumes. Um, Try to keep a little bit track of what jobs that you've applied to. You can get a little spreadsheet and go, here, I applied for this position on this date. Do I need to follow up on it? It helps keep you organized, helps kind of follow up professionally. I don't believe it's really helpful anymore to like continually call people or be like, did you get my resume or routinely email? Um, Unless you're suspecting that maybe the system's not working correctly. So other ways that you can get connected, find jobs, we talked about AAPC local chapters. Everyone you'll hear them say, like, they are gold mines. They really are. They help you meet other coders, hear about job openings, sometimes even before they're posted, because the people that are working in these organizations, they know when Sally, who's coding orthopedics, is about to retire and her job's not gonna be posted for another week or 2, but they can give you the heads up to apply for it. Or they can say, "You know what? We're about to take on another practice and we're going to need some E&M coders because Jessica is going to be moving over and she's going to be coding Euro Guy now. So if you just give me your resume, I will take it directly to my boss and they can, that those are the kind of relationships and conversations that are happening, especially in person at local chapters. Or they'll just talk about job openings. They'll be like, hey, here's a chapter meeting before our speaker comes. Does anyone have any job openings or know of any job openings from the experienced professionals that know about these job openings? So, showing up consistently, even just in your local chapters, can help build some of that reputation. Other than that, you can attend other industry events, other webinars. Um, you know, ask questions, introduce yourself, follow up with the speakers and the attendees. Even virtual events can lead to real world opportunities. Connect on LinkedIn. LinkedIn isn't just a digital resume, it's a networking hub. So, connecting with recruiters and coding managers and peers, commenting on posts, sharing insights. I really value when I can tell something is real and genuine. I have tried to work on some of these applications that are AI integrations with LinkedIn. And every time I go in, I'm just like, no, this feels wrong. Like the automated responses and every time it's like, here are the popular topics, that are trending on LinkedIn, and every single one of them is AI, 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 and I'm just like, "Ugh." Yes. I really just wanna hear about people's experiences and stories and helpful tips, like, it's just a lot of soapboxes and a lot of automation is just too much. Got a comment here on TikTok from Zar sorry, because it's all writing. I wanna make sure Zarima Ramirez. And it says, "Victoria, I want to say thanks to you. I found my passion in medical coding." Awesome. Yeah, that's how I was too. Like, I got into it because I thought it would be kind of a good career, and I'm like, "Ooh, I'm really good at this. Okay, okay." Hmm. Like, I just it just clicked. Um, but yeah, connect with recruiters and coders on LinkedIn, network. Um, give insights that are real. Sometimes the right comment or connection can lead directly to opportunities or networking or an interview. When I joined the local chapter board of directors, everyone says, "Oh, it's like a sisterhood and you're gonna meet all these people." And I liked the people that I served with on the board of directors, but I actually connected with someone at the same time on LinkedIn, and it was Tony Elholmes, and we wound up being like bestie buddies. We were best industry friends and then just became best friends, and now we like our families have hung out together and all kinds of stuff. Like, you never really know. I convinced her to become a Disney adult too, that was the best part. Now I'm like, "Tony, let's go to the Magic Kingdom together. Woohoo." So once you've landed that interview, it's time to kind of shift gears from paper to presence. I'm not going to cover too much about interviews in this video because I have whole videos about interviews and actually practice for interviews, like mock interviews, that you can watch on the YouTube channel. But make sure that you research the company beforehand. Don't just walk into it blind. Take some time to learn about the organization. What services are they providing? What specialties? Their values. Has there been anything in the news? It's actually not bad to look at the news because they might have had some paybacks in the news that you kind of want to know about going in. And employers really love when candidates show that they've done their homework, that it kind of signals like, I have genuine interest in specifically this company. And then prepare some examples of your work or your training. And when they ask, like one of the top questions that they really like to ask is like, if you're a new person and you're like a CPCA and you haven't landed that first job yet, and it's been a couple of months, like one of the things they're going to ask you is, what have you been doing to stay fresh and up to date in your medical coding skills while you're looking for a job or while you're in between jobs? And you want to be able to go, oh, well, I've been reading AAPC, the magazine, and oh, I just attended this wonderful Medicare webinar, or oh, I just did this training. Like have those prepared ahead of time so that they don't ask you a question like, can you give an example of a time that you had to deal with a difficult person in work? And you just stand there and you're like, you wanna start getting those examples in your mind. Like, go in and Google, like, common interview questions and start formulating their responses so you look, like, super professional and polished when you go in for that interview. Even if you're just doing it virtually, if you're on the phone or on a Zoom meeting or a computer, put on a nice shirt, like, polished, like, don't have your kids running around screaming in the background if you can prevent it, like, because they wanna see that you have a professional even work setup. Because if you're working remotely, you have to have a private area where roommates aren't walking behind you because HIPAA, and that you have proper setup, that you're not just, lounging on your couch or whatever. Not that you can't sometimes, although I feel like that would be difficult if you were trying to spread across a couch with paper books. Um, but yeah, some of those common questions, even like, tell us about yourself, or what are your strengths, or how do you handle mistakes, dress appropriately. Um, so job hunting, it can feel like it can sometimes feel like a full-time job in and of itself, right? It takes a lot of effort. It takes patience, making sure that your resume is up to date, finding jobs, is the go look, even knowing, understanding what the different types of coding positions are, and are you applying for the right positions? There's people that I've encountered that are certified in professional fee coding and don't realize that if they're not trained in PCS, that they really aren't going to be qualified for an inpatient facility job because they don't have the skill sets. They don't know that type of coding in order to work those jobs. So staying positive is really, really important there. Um, and it can take time. Job hunting can take time, and it's easy to become discouraged, but it might not happen overnight, and that's okay. Like every application, every interview, every networking, every conversation, it might not lead to an immediate offer, but it will lead to something. So celebrate the small wins, the progress. Did you get a call back? Did you get an interview this time? Like, if you did get an interview and okay, maybe you weren't selected for this one, like, can you get some feedback from them? Like, what I always like at the end of an interview to ask, like, what doubts are you having about me in this position? Is there anything that if I had this, you knew it would be like a definite, like, I'm going to hire Victoria right now type of thing? What could I do that would put me ahead of your other candidates so that you at least then know for next time if they don't hire you, like, oh, this is what they're looking for and I didn't have it. Progress comes in steps, not in leaps. So acknowledging those little steps can help you keep motivated. Stay active in your coding communities, network with others, network with LinkedIn, Facebook groups, AAPC chapters. It helps you feel less alone in the process, if nothing else, and you might pick up some tips, some encouragement. People will be more open to telling you about job openings that you might not have found otherwise if you open up about people, right? If you open up and they're like, hey, I'm looking for a job. Remember your goal. keep your eyes on the bigger picture. You're not just chasing a job, you're building a career in healthcare with stability, with growth, with purpose. You're going to work in healthcare and there's going to be a lot of great potentially even benefits that you're going to get from that. So, it's part of the journey. So job hunting is a marathon, not a sprint. You have to stay positive, stay connected, keep moving forward. And you've already taken huge steps just by being here today. I'm going to take a couple questions if we have them coming in from the audience. Um, Someone says, I don't feel like I'm ready for the coding exam, even though I have been studying. I would highly, highly suggest the AEPC practice exams. The study guide and the practice exams, the official ones, I think are really your best bet. And really, once you've gone through those practice questions, going back and finding the ones that you did not get correct, going through the rationale, going and then understanding, am I making mistakes because I'm rushing too much? I'm not reading the question clearly enough, or is it, oh, I didn't understand this concept, or did I miss something? Like I missed that I was supposed to code also or code first, so really going through that. Why is the CPC so expensive to take? Yes, it's expensive comparatively, though, compared to other similar exams. I don't think it's any more expensive than other professional certifications of that caliber are. They're hosting, I think, right now, not that I know that this is maybe beneficial to everyone, but it might be to some people. I think I saw something about they're running some kind of unlimited exam special. I'm not sure if that's an independent thing or part of a training package. Let's take a look here. Unlimited exams, 50% off. Everything you need to get certified and unlimited exam attempts expires 9:30. I think that might be the full training package. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, that's the full training package, not just the yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's an expensive exam to administer. You have to have very, very qualified people to make the exams, maintain the exam questions, make sure that no one's cheating on the exams, pay for the platforms that are hosting the exams. So there is a lot that goes into it. If it was just like, hey, we're just gonna put together, some platform and slap it online and let everyone test it, and we're not gonna screen to see if they're using whatever resources, yeah, it would cost less, but would the credential hold as much caliber, right? Goddess says, "Thank you. I love listening to your experience and guidance. I appreciate it. Thank you so much." Um, I know. So with the exam, they do have um, 2 attempt packages. So they have a 1 attempt and a 2 attempt package. The 2 attempt is a little bit more. It's maybe like $100 more. But if you have to buy 2 individual 1 attempts, it's a lot more expensive. So I feel like if you're buying the 1 attempt, I would definitely make sure that you are like 100% ready. Like, I know I'm gonna pass this exam because I'm getting like 80% or more on all of my practice questions. Um, Tanya asked, "How can I preview the prior 3 recordings on this presentation?" I think they're linked in the video description. If not, go to Contempo Coding on YouTube and check the live tab, and they will all be available there. I did get one other question about place of service code. Someone asked about place of service codes. I don't know where I've been doing all kinds of social media stuff right now. Someone asked about where to find place of service codes on TikTok. Go to your CPT book, open up. It's like the first official page, and they're like the first paper page is right there is all of your place of service codes. Ugh, why do I have 2023 books? It is time to. I think it's time to start. I think it's time to start getting rid of some of the older code books and recycle those. My new code books should be coming soon for 2026, and do some new updated tabbing videos. I don't think I've done it. I think my last tabbing video was 2024. So I should probably do a 2026 code book tabbing video. Um, Liz, how do you append CPT codes to modifiers? I'm learning modifiers right now. They go right at the end of the CPT code. They go in the claim form. right next to the modifiers. Sometimes it depends on, like, um, what system you're working on or what kind of entry you're doing, but yeah, the modifiers, like, a lot of times if you're looking at, like, a CPC exam kind of test question, they'll just do, like, a dash and then the two-digit modifier after the CPT code. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in to today's presentation. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can watch on the replay, hashtag replay team on YouTube. It will also be available on LinkedIn. I don't know what the heck happened to my Facebook feed. Actually, oh gosh, I forgot to even hit my Instagram people. I apologize, Instagram people. I will see you guys in the next video. And until then, just keep on coding on.